Joining me now is Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger. Congressman, thanks so much for being with us. You told our friend David Axelrod on the Axe Files that you have no doubt, there is no doubt in your mind that the former president incited the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. Given those feelings, how do you feel about House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy going to meet with him today?
Well, look, I don't know why Kevin's going down there. They're saying it's to go kiss the ring, conversation, whatever. I don't know, so I'm not going to say anything on that. I'll just say this, though. Our party needs to take a step back, look at where we've come. You know, this is the party, if you think back to the days of Ronald Reagan and inspiration and aspiration, to where we are today, where we're defending a president saying things and we're trying to nuance it and saying, well, he didn't exactly incite a riot. Yet we've seen over the last 4 years, talking about fighting basically harder than we ever have and all these different things we've seen. This is not the party I joined. This is not the party, that really is for conservative principles. So how do I feel about it? I don't know. I just know this. I know as a party, we need to restore the integrity and really work to rebuild the trust of the American people that I think we lost.
You have said, I've heard you say it, David Axelrod, Jim Sciutto, you are in a battle now. For the soul, really, of the Republican Party. That's how you see it. You say it's your 5-meter target, in other words, which is a military term. That's the closest thing that you are concerned about right now, is the battle for the Republican Party. Well, look, in the last 24 hours, I'm talking about the last 24 hours, you have the House leader going to meet with the former president. You have Marjorie Taylor Greene getting a committee assignment. You have the Republican Party itself coming out with an official statement against impeachment. So given all that, I asked you this morning, Congressman, how do you think your battle is going?
So far, not great. We're still at the very beginning of this. And we failed as a party just generally for 4 years to explain to the American people really what our values are. And we've pivoted to, we have to win at all costs. And, Donald Trump, he's a fighter and we're going to back him. And we got some policies that we liked in place. But in that process, we lost the discussion about what is conservatism. I believe conservatism is that a kid born in the inner city of Chicago should have the same opportunity as a kid born in Highland Park, Illinois. And all the stuff we believe is how do we get somebody to that perspective? And but nobody's heard that from us in years. And so it's not going great at the moment. But, this is the really beginning of it. And that's where the focus is now, is we have to go back to our roots. And look, there's a lot of people that, avid Donald Trump supporters, because they're conservative, that need to hear the story of where we've actually gone as a party off the rails and how we get back there.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, as we said, the K-File reporting, which you're quoted in, by the way, Marjorie Taylor Greene endorsed or expressed support for the idea of executing Democratic members of Congress. We see her on the video with David Hogg as well. She has now a seat on the Education Committee given to her by House leadership. What do you think should happen to Marjorie Taylor Greene in Congress?
Well, let's be clear. She's not a Republican. I mean, she may be like this new definition of Republican, but that's kind of a rhino thing. A Republican in name only is what she is. And I personally don't think she should have any committees. I look at that and I go, well, the Education Committee, first off, it's not considered a good committee to get on, but I don't think she should have the privilege of any committees, especially when you see the things that are coming out, the embracing of conspiracy theories, which have really not just unmoored the party. So not just from a Republican perspective am I worried about like what QAnon has done. Obviously, we saw what happened at the Capitol. You see things like Pizzagate. We all know friends that have kind of lost a sense of reality because they've been pulled into this dark underworld of conspiracies. And that's where it is incumbent on leaders and everybody, frankly, to expose that darkness, to bring light to darkness, to begin to disinfect that. And so to the extent we have members of Congress that embrace anything like that or become completely unmoored from truth, we can't accept that. And that's where the battle begins, is just letting people know that it's okay to speak out against this stuff and defend the integrity of the party.
You say she's not a Republican. And to that, I show you the election results from her district, where she won the primary with over 50% of the vote. In the general election, look at this. I mean, she got nearly 75% of the vote. So how can you say she's not a Republican? Maybe she is what the Republican Party is.
Yeah. Well, look, I did the same as her. I actually did better in some of that area. But, and You're right. I mean, that's the real definition now is do people like her become the majority of the party for the long term? I mean, we're in a moment. In this moment, I don't think she in any way can define the party. And everybody calls me a rhino, and I'm as conservative as anybody out there. So I think it's actually okay to look at this and say, somebody that espouses beliefs that believe a Satanist cabal runs the U.S. government, quite opposite of what Ronald Reagan or George W. or George H.W. or anybody ever believed. That to me is a little more unhinged from the Republican platform. We got to quit being a party of personality and get back to being a party of principles first. And I think if we can do that, we'll be competitive and earn people's trust.
You told Jim Sciutto that in a way the Republican Party now for you is on a kind of double secret probation, that you're not sure if this will ultimately be the party for you as you go forward. When will you know? How will you know whether there's a place for you in the Republican Party?
I don't know the answer to that. I think, that's why I'm focused on engaging in this battle now, and not in a fight like an angry throw at things, but just going back to the American people and to the Republican Party and reminding folks of where we came from, which we've lost. And I think, look, if there becomes a point at which a guy like me is just completely ostracized because I'm not angry enough, I'm not divisive enough, I don't go into the, as Jeff Flake called it, the demographic cul-de-sac enough, then obviously that'll be a moment. But man, until then, I'm going to fight hard. I've never been a kind of person to give up. And look, the idea of a third party, I know a lot of people are floating around, they just don't work in the country. It'll be the Republican and the Democratic Party. I just love to see the Republican Party be strong again and aspirational again.
You say if it gets to the point where you're ostracized, well, Matt Gaetz is going out to Wyoming to campaign against Liz Cheney today. And again, I say it again, Kevin McCarthy's going down to meet with the former president who's the inspirational leader of all of this. How can you say it hasn't already happened to an extent?
So, look, all these trends are fairly, in the arc of history, recent in the Republican Party. Donald Trump was president for 4 years. And I think, a party, in essence, surrounding him when he's president, that is understandable. When you're out, though, and especially after we see things like an attempted insurrection on the U.S. government, that's where I think it's going to take a little time, but we're going to see, does the party just double embrace him? Or is there a slow awakening? Is this a Saturday morning after a, pretty bad Friday night bender where our eyes just like looking around and go, man, what did we do last night? And that's my hope. And that's what I'm trying to bring light to people to say, look at how far we've come off the road. And I'll tell you what, if you're the hardcorest Democrat out there, you should want a Republican Party like I'm talking about, because this country needs two healthy and two inclusive parties to do battle as politicians politically and politely.
Adam Kinzinger, we appreciate you coming on and sharing your views this morning. Thank you.
You bet. See ya.